Shalom, giving all praise to Yahweh, Shalom to the hopefully elect out there. And this is more on this particular video. Let me give you the title right here. Bear with me for a minute. Okay, so let's go over here. Bear with me for a minute. The video that I did earlier, they didn't even put up. They didn't even put up a notification. Here's the proof. Okay, I finally found it. Let me do this. So you know what I got to say about these 2/3. They can go fuck themselves. For real. So this is kind of like a part 2 to this video. They can say that they're the Israelites, but we can't. So I'm just gonna let it play. Yeah, these people have to be set up. They had to be some backdoor deal where they got paid to do the best that they can to debunk this whole Israel thing, because you have people all over the world, different areas around the world, that claim that they are the lost tribes of Israel. Nobody's talking about them. You know, nobody's talking about the JJs, the small hats, and they're not the people. They what prophecy have they fulfilled? Anyway, let's listen to this madness and let me see where this is going to go. This is why the Christians should be off limits as far as doing a debate with them, like you're going to make them understand it. And that's what they're trying to do with us. We're not going to accept the bullshit that the shit that you're shoveling at us, because we came out of that Christianity bullshit. It was bullshit when I was in it, and it's bullshit now. Anybody that's a Christian in his right mind should really be in a padded cell with a straitjacket on, because really you're not in your right mind. This man, either he's not in his right mind or he got paid off. So let's listen.
Barely derived this from a misinterpretation of Deuteronomy 28. Now, I'm going to read a couple of scriptures from here just so that you can see how they twist them and how they misunderstand them, and you can hopefully...
So how we twist them. We're expert at twisting the scriptures. When we say the Most High is only coming for the sons or the children of Israel, we have scriptures to back it up. How in the hell can you twist Romans? This comes up the first scripture that comes to my mind. How in the hell can you twist Romans chapter 9? How do we twist Romans chapter 9? How do we twist Matthew's 1 verse 21? The angel Gabriel told Joseph that you shall call his name, and he said Yahushua. He didn't say Jesus. He said Yahushua. Some of you say Yeshua. For he shall say, then he broke what the name meant. For he, Yah, shall save Yahushua, his people, from their sins. Now, how do we know what people did the Lord as a baby? What was the purpose of him being born in this earth? Well, the angel said it. He said he set up. Well, there's a scripture that says, for the fall and rising of many in Israel. Let me go pick that up. For the fall, let me go to the KJV. Oh, they get mad when we go to the KJV. See, they a cult. Any religion that goes into the KJV, that's a cult. Let me see. How should I do it? Let me do it this way. Fall and rising. Fall and rising. Let's see what comes up. That's Luke 2, verse 34. And Simeon, which was an older man, that the Lord told him through the angel, through the Spirit, that he wasn't going to die unless he sees the so-called baby Lord, Messiah. And then when he saw that the baby was born, then he said, "I'm ready to go in peace." I might want to go a couple of verses above that. Let me see. Let me go here. But we're twisting scriptures. See, you got to watch these Israelites because they twist scriptures, whatever the hell that means. Okay, 31st verse, which thou hast prepared before the face of all people, a light to lighten the Gentiles. Wait a minute, he came for the Gentiles. This word Gentile right here is referring to Israelites. Like Cornelius. Cornelius is an Israelite, was an Israelite. And the glory of thy people Israel. It didn't mean that the Lord came for the other nations and Israel. He came for the Israelites that didn't know that they were Israelites coming back into the fold. This is what these journeys that Paul made. Was actually 5 of them, 3 major journeys. There were 5 altogether when you do the research. And the people that he witnessed to or taught in Asia Minor, which is parts of Europe, Greece, and the surrounding areas, those were Israelites living all up in Europe and parts of that area, which is called Asia Minor. That's why you have icons of Europe predating before the Renaissance of so-called black people as the saints of the Most High, as the Most High, as the angels, as the Messiah, as the disciples. So when you go back far enough before the Renaissance period, all those images were images of so-called black people, proving that they were what? That the Israelites were people of color. It said, "And Joseph and his brother and his mother marvel at those things which were spoken of him. And Simon blessed them and said unto Mary, his mother, the Lord's mother, behold, this child is set for the fall and rising again of many in Israel." So he only came for the Israelites. So what about these Gentiles in the 32nd verse? Those are Israelites. Cornelius was an Israelite that was raised by a family that didn't teach him that he was an Israelite, and he found out that he was an Israelite. There's no backstory on Cornelius. And another example is Acts 16:1, with Timothy's father being a Greek. He was an Israelite that didn't want to accept the fact that he was an Israelite. He wanted to be a heathen. And then you had Israelites that did that. You had Israelites that fought for Rome and killed other Israelites, knowing that they were Israelites. Alexander was, I get his 3 names there. Alexander, one of his names is Alexander Julius. Julius Alexander. There was a third name there. Julius Tiberius Alexander. When you look him up in the Google, they tell you he was an Alexandrian Jew, meaning he was an Israelite based out of Alexandria, Egypt. So he grew up under the law, statutes, and commandments, but he fell in love with the Roman power structure, and he became a top general um, during the time of 70 A.D. And he was a general that really led the charge to do away with the Israelites. It wasn't General Titus, but General Titus got the credit because he was the son of the Caesar. So in going into the scriptures, you got to go into the history. It says in Simeon, which was an older man, blessed them and said unto Mary, his mother, behold, the child is set for the fall and rising again of many in Israel. So Simeon was an Israelite, an older man. And for a sign which shall be spoken against. Yeah, a sword shall pass through thine own soul also, that the thoughts of many hearts may be revealed. And there was one Anna, a prophetess, the daughter of Phanuel of the tribe of Asher. Going to the history, I believe that's Second Chronicles chapter 30, when you had some of the tribes of the northern kingdom went back with Judah, and Asher was one of the tribes. She was of a great age and had lived with an husband 7 years from her virginity. Seven years from her virginity. And she was a widow of about 84 years, 84 years. Older woman, was departed not from the temple, but served the Most High with fasting and prayers night and day. And she coming in that instant gave thanks likewise unto Yahweh, and spake of him to all them that look for the redemption in Jerusalem. Because who was living in Jerusalem? Israelites. What do you think the Lord meant when he opened up the Torah on the Sabbath day and it opened up to Isaiah chapter 61? I was talking about free. He came to deliver the Israelites. He came to take them out of prison. He was talking about the Israelites. He was saying that he was the Messiah that was prophesied. And then what did they do? They try to throw him off a mountain. So you Christians don't understand the scriptures, and you don't go into the history. So this is one scripture. And we can go into many scriptures where the Most High only came for the children of Israel. The Great Commission is found in Matthew, the 10th chapter, when he gathered the 12 and he gave them a commission as to what to do. He said, when you go out and teach, go not in the way of the Gentiles. What does it mean, the way of the Gentiles? Where the Gentiles dwell. Don't go that way. Neither any city of the Samaritans enter ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep. Go where the Israelites dwell, the ones that are lost and the ones that are awoken, and go and tell them that the kingdom of heaven is for you. So where do we twist those scriptures at from? How in the fuck do we twist the scriptures, man? This is why I hate Christians. And when Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai start destroying you Christians, that's gonna make my day. That's gonna make my day, because you have no business breathing the air. Most High needs to get rid of you, man. All Christians need to be put in a padded room with a straitjacket on and get medication and eat applesauce all day and dribble, because you're all a bunch of fuck ups and you're all gonna die. If you can tell me what movie that's from, you're good. So now let's listen to this jerk off.
you an idea of how they come to the conclusion that they, African people, people of color, are the lost tribes of Israel.
African people, what does that mean? Anybody that you got white people that live in Africa, you call them Africans. The Dutch, white European Dutch living in Africa for centuries, for generations, they're Africans too. You have so-called black Africans and white Africans. Then you got Indians that live in Africa that could call themselves Africans. Africa is just a continent, man. We were living in Africa before 70 AD. Remember, you had a big community of Israelites living in Alexandria, Egypt. So, did that make those people that lived in Egypt? Did that make them Africans? That made them Africans maybe because they were living there, they dwelt there, or they had some type of citizenship in that particular country in the continent of Africa. We are not Africans. We were Israelites that settled ultimately on the west coast of Africa. So that's where they got us. They didn't come into the land of Israel and gather us and bring us to America. They came to West Africa. It was called the Triangle Trade, which consisted of taking, because slavery was just a part of it. You took certain raw materials and certain things that were made in Europe, England, certain places like that. England is one place. The first stop was to West Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, places like that, West Africa. And what they did was they would trade. They would give trinkets and gunpowder and liquor and different type of things for slaves. And it was slaves it was Israelites selling Israelites for the most part, and the Arabs were a part of it too. So that's the first stop. The second stop was to take the slaves with other materials to the Americas, and then that ship would get other raw materials from America and take it back to places like England. So that was called the Triangle Trade, I guess you call it, if you look it up. So they dealt with goods, they dealt with slaves, and they dealt with raw materials. So what was that the fulfillment of? That was the fulfillment of the Israelites going into captivity. Did all of them go that way? No, because you had the Northern Kingdom already in the Americas that was taken over by the so-called white man, starting with Christopher Columbus. This is not hard. So let's listen.
Okay, so I'm reading from the King James. I don't normally always, but I'm going to read from the King James so you can see how they're going to get it. So Deuteronomy 28:41, it says this: "Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity."
Watch the movie Roots, or the series Roots. Watch the movie Mandingo. What other movies? Watch the movie 12 Years a Slave. What other movie? Watch the movie Drum, which is like a sequel to Mandingo. There was another movie called Farewell to Uncle Tom. There was another movie called Ill-Gotten Gain. It was about slavery, black slavery. So some of the slaves were born into slavery in America. Others was brought over here. Oh, watch the movie. What's the name of that movie? Amistad. That was a revolt, and they were Israelites. And I believe they were from Ghana. They were Israelites. There was a part in the movie, and I forget who sent this to me. I don't know if it was Gabar Yahawada. If you're watching it, I believe you sent it to me. Maybe you, but if you did that, send it to me again. Where there was a video where there was a scene where they were going back and forth before the court, and they went up to as far as the Supreme Court. And when they were in their quarters, they had women singing, and they were singing. If I'm not mistaken, they were in the lyrics of the song. They were, I believe, they were saying Yahweh. Anybody that sent that to me, or anybody that has that video, send it to me. Send it to me. And the book Roots, I forget what page, and I had the book. I got the book somewhere in the house where he said in the book that something to the effect of these slaves in America can be compared to the Israelites in slavery back in Egypt, or something to that effect. I don't know the exact quote. So everything in the scriptures point to us. This is the go-to scripture, the go-to chapter to prove that we're the Israelites. This doesn't apply to the small hats. It doesn't apply to the Jays. Give me a picture of a bunch of Jays where Hitler put yokes of iron around their necks. This is why you shouldn't engage with these Christians. They need us. We don't need them. Okay, so let's listen.
Now, let me explain and give you the breakdown. Deuteronomy 28 is a chapter where God, through the prophet Moses, is telling his people, you have a choice, blessings or cursings. If you do what is right and you follow God, these blessings will follow you. But if you disobey God, then you can expect these curses to follow you. What the Hebrew Israelite does is that they read this passage of scripture, then they look at the black context, the African context of slavery.
Let's look at the context, the white European context of these small hats, these JJs. When did Hitler, or any time in history, a bunch of so-called white people was put on a ship or sent to Babylon? There's no records of white people in Babylon, under the captivity under the Babylonians, except for the Edomites. You saw Edomite in there. They were working with the Babylonians. Egypt, when you put in slaves in Egypt, which we all agree that the Israelites grew as a nation, born as a nation in Egypt. If you go to Google and you put in slaves, not black slaves, not Hebrew Israelite slaves, but slaves in ancient Egypt, you're going to see the difference between the Egyptian, the so-called Egyptian, and you're going to see the difference between that Egyptian and the slave that was far smaller in stature. Matter of fact, why am I talking? Let me pull that up. Let me do this. Slaves in ancient Egypt.
There were three types of enslavement in ancient Egypt: chattel slavery, bonded labor, and forced labor. But even these seemingly well-differentiated types of slavery are susceptible to individual interpretation.
Let's go to images. There we go. There we go. What we know about slavery in Egypt. These are people of color. These are the Israelites, and maybe some other Canaanites and so forth. These are the Egyptians, taskmasters, and you see the slaves. They don't look like JJs. It says things you may not know about. Okay, you got slaves. I'm looking for the JJs, man. I'm looking for the small hats. I'm looking for the so-called white man in slavery. Let me do it this way. Let me do it this way. Israelite slaves in ancient Egypt. Same pictures pop, same. Were Hebrews ever slaves in ancient Egypt? Let's pull this up. They don't look like small hats to me. They don't look like pasty white people. Oh, this is the one I was looking for. This is as you can see, that the dress coat, the dress, that's an Egyptian, high-ranking Egyptian, most likely a taskmaster. And you see these people. You can see the facial features that they're black. You see the beards. These represent the Israelites. What did I put in there? Israelite slaves in ancient Egypt. So what the hell is Alan Parr talking about? They'll read Deuteronomy 28 and then somehow they apply it to themselves. Now, this is some bullshit right here. This right here, you notice how I said the first Jewish lie. I'm not going to go all into it. Is an Israelite with a big ass head. These are obviously pharaohs, high ranking, the elite among the Egyptians, which you can see that he's brown skin. I'm looking for the JJs. Where the JJs at? Where are the JJs? Look at that. Braids, cornrows, Jerry curl, whatever you want to call it. Ancient Egyptian head comb mystery solved by archaeologists. You can see that they're women of color, brown skinned women. There's no such thing as black people. Moses passed for an Egyptian. Moses was set up as an Egyptian, a general, as a royal, because he came out of he was a so-called grandson of the pharaoh at that time. So you mean to tell me the pharaoh's daughter found a little white baby, pasty white baby, and said, "Oh, the sun god Ra gave me this little white baby"? Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me, man? It says solving the mystery of the ancient Egyptian head combs. Now, you can see that you can clearly see that these are black women. You know what I mean by that. Now, I don't know if these are Israelite women or Egyptian women. Slavery, ancient Egypt, these are Israelites. And you can see that they're depicted as people of color. Here it is again. Here it is again. Look like Jake, everyday Jake. Got a certain Jake look to him. They wasn't as tall as the Egyptians. The Egyptians were known for their height, which are the seed of Mizraim. This was during the this was pre Renaissance art. This had to be in Europe. So let's come back over here. Where are we? So that's so when you read the book of Deuteronomy 28, you do what High Priest Arias said, you do what's called a process of elimination. Does it fit Chinese people? Nope. Does it fit Japanese people? Nope. Does it fit white people? Nope. Does it fit Arab people? Maybe, because Arab people look like us to a certain degree. And then you come to the conclusion that we were those people. So let's listen.
Transatlantic slave trade. And they read that context or that experience, I want to make it clear, back into the text, and they say that Deuteronomy 28 is not prophesying this to the nation of Israel. No, Deuteronomy 28 is prophesying all of these things about African people.
No, Israelites that lived in Africa, not African people. Like I said, if you understand the history, you had Israelites that fled into Africa. Let me do this. Let me do this. Let me see. Alexandrian Jews.
According to Wikipedia, Alexandrian Jewry were the founders of Hellenistic Judaism and the first to translate the Torah from Hebrew to Koine Greek, a document known as the Septuagint. Many important Jewish writers and figures came from or studied in Alexandria, such as Philo, Ben Sira, Tiberius Julius Alexander, and Josephus.
Right. Tiberius Julius Alexander, I spoke about him, and he was second in command under Titus. But he was an experienced general. But who got the credit? Titus, the son of Vespasian. What are the Jews from Egypt called? Let's see what that says. Egyptian Jews constitute both one of the oldest and one of the youngest Jewish communities in the world. The historic core of the Jewish community in Egypt mainly consisted of Egyptian Arabic-speaking Rabbinites and Kharizites, which is bullshit. That's complete bullshit. Which Pharaoh enslaved the Hebrews? Let's see what that says. It says Ramesses II. They became so numerous that a Pharaoh who did not know Joseph, after Joseph died, enslaved the Hebrews. This Pharaoh is believed to be Ramesses II, 1290 to 1224 BCE. So these people, this community of Jews in Egypt were black people. Tiberius Julius Alexander was a so-called black man. We believe that this guy, whatever his name is, he's the Secretary of Defense. Okay, so now let's come back. That's why we look at Deuteronomy 28 and we say that fits us. That's us. We're the people. We are those people. So somebody's an imposter, and they're gonna have to get got out that land, and they are gonna get got out that land. Are we supposed to be in that land? Nope, because the Most High is going to destroy that place. We're supposed to, at least the prophets are supposed to be in this land to condemn this place, this great altar called America. America's nothing but an altar. Those Israelites that live in the Mona Israel, they're not a threat. They're in the land of Israel, but they're not a threat. Vocab ain't talking to them because they're not a threat. They're not a spiritual threat. They don't even believe in the Messiah. They don't believe in the Old Testament. So you know the Most High is not dealing with them. Let's listen to a little bit more.
Right? So now let's read it through their lens again. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
The slave ships. Let me do this. For they shall go into captivity. Bear with me for a minute. Thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. We were in captivity. Then, now, so we're still under under the curses to this very day. Then, now, see a man, a so-called white man on a horse. Then, auctioning blocks. You shall have sons and daughters, but you shall not enjoy them. Why? Because they separated the husband to one plantation, the wife to another plantation, and the children to other plantations. That's a heinous crime. Now, so Deuteronomy 28 is pointing to who? Us, so-called black people, so-called black Native Americans, uh, and Latinos of color, of Indian and Negroid descent. Now, they didn't receive the captivity of going into slavery from the Middle East, but guess what? One of the first things that Christopher Columbus did, he had brought back to Spain 500 of the Israelites of the Northern Kingdom to serve slavery. He said basically these people will make great slaves. Ain't that something? You come to another land, you see a people, and the first thing that pops into your mind is these people will make good slaves because they're the Israelites. So let's listen to more of this madness.
Doesn't that sound like the transatlantic slave trade? And this,
it sounds exactly like the transatlantic slave trade. And I hope this guy covers the 48th verse.
400 years of slavery that African people were taken from Africa, brought over against our will. Sons and daughters, we have them, but we can't enjoy them because sons and daughters and families were separated from one another.
When was the last time you heard a police officer shoot a small hat? I'll wait. When was the last time you heard a bunch of police gun down a Chinese person, an Arab, an East Indian, a Russian? Anytime you hear of cops or one cop shooting a person, most of the time in their back, most of the time they're not armed, it's always a so-called black man of a certain age. That never happened in America, of a cop shooting a small hat. That has never happened in America. The small hats were not sold on auction blocks in America. They supplied the ships. Let's go on.
when we went into what? Captivity or bondage or slavery. So they will look at the text in Deuteronomy 28 and say, this is a prophecy about us, about African people.
And about you too, knucklehead. And about you too. That's why you're not going to make it. You're going to be one of the guys in the kingdom that got your head down. Some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. So it's going to be a while before you put your damn head up.
People, not the nation of Israel. Well, the nation of Israel, but we are the nation of Israel. We are the true tribes of Israel. We're the
Exactly. And you're going to find out very shortly. You're going to find that out very shortly. When the Most High comes and delivers us and delivers the elect, that's you're going to see people getting beamed up, and you're going to notice. I notice only blacks and Puerto Ricans and Dominicans and West Indians are getting beamed up. I don't realize. Oh, well, there's one white guy got beamed up. Well, guess what? That white guy that he saw got beamed up was an Israelite. Did that happen to look like a white guy?
lost tribes of Israel. Let's keep going, right? Deuteronomy 28, 64 and 65. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even until the other, and to the other.
Even unto the others, talking about what? To the utmost side of the earth, from the east. Everything started from the east, all the way to the other end of the earth. What's the other end of the earth? Canada, the U.S., Central America, and the whole of South America. That's the uttermost side of the earth. The starting point is on the east. To the uttermost side of the earth is the west. If you go all the way to California, you hit the Pacific Ocean. You're gonna wind up in the Far East. If you keep going, you're gonna wind up in the Middle East. If you keep going, you're gonna hit the Atlantic Ocean. And when you go over the Atlantic Ocean, going westbound, you're going to run into the Americas. So guess what? When Christopher Columbus and Esau got over here, what did they discover? They didn't see a bunch of small hats. They didn't see they didn't see any white people. They didn't see any white people there. Christopher Columbus, and we're talking about the east coast of the Americas, because I believe he landed in which is called Hispaniola, which is Santo Domingo in Haiti. And as they came, they migrated further north up into the Americas, up into Canada. What was all up in Canada? What people were living all up in Canada? Gadites. I've been to Canada a couple of times. The first inhabitants of Canada, which is part of the Americas, are the Gadites, the Indians. The people that they encountered in the so-called U.S., from the East Coast to the West Coast, from the North to the South, were North America, various tribes of the so-called North American Indians, Seminoles and so forth. When they went down to South America, they made a movie. This guy, Mel Gibson, the racist ass Melly Gibson, he had to throw that in there. He made a movie called Apocalypto. At the end of the movie, there was the first signs of the last scene of the movie. There were white men coming off of boats. Throughout that whole movie, were there any white people? No, they were all indigenous people. And a lot of those actors, the main character, he's an actual Gadite that goes to powwows, and he believes in the culture of his people. So a lot of them were actually Gadites playing, Aztecs and so forth, Mayans. Because guess what? You have a lot of Gadites that look like Mayans, look like Aztecs, because they were the same people. Those were the 10 tribes. At the beginning, it was the 10 tribes. So they were already over here. There was no sign of any pasty so-called white people somewhere in America. Oh, we hit what is called Louisiana, and you had a community of small hats. No, that didn't happen. The small hats came when the white man came. So not only are we so-called black people in America, we believe that we're the Israelites, but guess what? We found out that these people of the original dwellers of America are what? Israelites. We're the Israelites. That's the Great Awakening. Ezekiel 37. So if you can't see it, either the Most High blinded you or, or you took that bag. That's called a process of elimination. Let's look up process of elimination. Process of elimination. From Longman Dictionary of Contemporary English, process of elimination, way of finding the right answer, the truth, etc., by gradually deciding that none of the other answers except are possibly a process of elimination. I solved the problem by a process of elimination. Remember the Sesame Street when you were a kid? You got 4 things on this board here. One of them is not the same. Can you tell which one is not the same? But before I finish the game, la 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 la. And then it be you have 4 Jakes or 3 Jakes, and you have 1 Chinese guy. So what do you eliminate? You eliminate the Chinese guy. That's what process of elimination is. That's the definition of the term a process of elimination. Look at Deuteronomy 28:64 and say the Israelites were scattered throughout the whole planet. Well, there's no record of any small hats, any pasty Europeans on this side of the world. So they're not the people. That was one of the curses of Israel. They're not the people. We are the people. Let's listen to a little bit more. Let's listen to a little bit more of this nonsense, because that's exactly what it is. Any Israelite that says, you know what, I'm going to go back to Christianity, you're a fucking stupid ass, and we welcome you to go back.
And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
So when you go to North, Central, and South America, when you go to Central and South America, what is the predominant religion in Central and South America? In that matter, Haiti, Roman Catholicism. Where did they get it from? When the white man came over here, when the so-called white man came over here, the so-called blacks in America that were enslaved, what is the predominant religion in America during the time of chattel slavery? It was Christianity, Baptist, Methodist, not Roman Catholic. You didn't have too many Roman Catholics up here in America. You had the Spaniards that took South America, and what did they do? They forced you into their religion, which is Roman Catholicism. So what did it say? It says, and there thou, which is the Americas, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. What gods were we worshiping? We were worshiping the Most High. We were keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. It said, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. So what's made from wood and stone? You have crosses that are made from wood and stone. You have the cobblestone, because you have a lot of people that embrace Islam. So the thing to worship is the cobblestone, right? Your churches, your mosque, most of your churches here in America are made out of what? Wood and stone, building materials. When you went in there, you worship images of Caesar Borgia.
They'll look at verses like this and say, you know what? Weren't we as Africans scattered among all the people from one end of the earth, Africa, to the other, right? America, right?
He just said it, Africa to America. So my question to you is, when Christopher Columbus and the so-called white man came to America, what people did they encounter? Did they encounter Chinese people? No. Did they encounter white people? No. Did they encounter Japanese people? No. They encountered the indigenous people, which were the Israelites.
Right? So this must be referring to us. We are the true tribes of Israel. We are the lost tribes of Israel, right? So that's why they're called Hebrew Israelites. Now, I'll go to this in just a second. Let me go to another one. And among these nations, now watch this, thou shalt find no ease. Was it easy to be in slavery as an African person in 400 years? No, it wasn't. These verses, they will claim, are talking about the plight and the experience of African people and not the nation of Israel. Now, let me backtrack. We know as evangelical Christians that this is talking about the Babylonian captivity, where God allowed his chosen people to be taken away to Babylon for 70 years of captivity, and then God allowed them to return to their land. That's how we.
So you heard what he said. I'm going to close on this. He said that's talking about the Babylonians. You can say, yep, that's the Babylonians. But guess what? Deuteronomy 28 was ongoing. It wasn't just talking about the Babylon. We're talking about the Assyrian Empire, Babylonian Empire, Moab, Ammon, the Greeks. During the time of the Greeks, during the time of the Maccabees, we were under the curses. During the time of the Roman persecution, we were still under the curses. That's why our Lord opened up on the Sabbath. He went to the temple. He opened up Isaiah 61 and read from it. What was he talking about? He was talking about delivering you from the clutches of the Roman Empire. But guess what? There's two Roman empires. I'll say it this way. Revelation 13, it says there was a deadly wound to one of the heads, and the head came back to life. This is the second leg of the Roman Empire. So when the Lord said he's going to free us from the second leg of the Roman Empire 2,000 years later. So it's a waste of time dealing with a knucklehead that calls himself a Christian. It's an absolute waste of time to engage in a debate with any Christian. These clowns still teach that Jesus, their Jesus, he died on a Friday and rose up on a Sunday. And then they'll read the scripture 3 days and 3 nights. How in the hell can you get 3 days and 3 nights out of Friday to Saturday? Anyway, that's it. You know what? Let me listen to it a little bit more. Little bit more.
We believe these verses were fulfilled in prophecy. The Hebrew Israelite says, no. This wasn't talking about the biblical nation of Israel. This is talking about the African people, right? Let's keep going. But
the people that were on the other side of the world, pursuant to what you just read, they were not African people. They were indigenous people. Indians is what they call them. Because we're not the only Israelites. The Israelites consist of the people of North, Central, and South America and scattered throughout the world, looking like the other nations, of Indian and Negroid, and of Negroid, Indian, and Latino Indian descent.
Okay. Among these nations thou shalt find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. Were we resting in slavery? No, we were picking cotton, right? So, but the Lord shall give the
nigga, it's called can't see the can't see. Can't see in the morning and can't see at night. Mean you work all day until the end of the day. And if you didn't want to work, you got whipped. You got punished. They had a gun trained on your head. They had whipping posts. They would sell you to another plantation. So what the fuck is this nigga talking about?
They bear a trembling heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind.
That means depressed. That's why you got a lot of Jakes that are fat. Got a lot of black women that are fucking fat. Why? Because they're fucking depressed. I'm gonna close, but I'm gonna say this. This is to all the camps. This is all we're gonna unite. All the camps, when you put your prayers up, put prayers up on these pray for these Christians, and you know what I mean. Pray for these Christians like you pray for an Edomite. Pray for these Christians, especially the black ones, especially the tribes. Pray that the Most High destroy them. Anyway, with that, I'm gonna say shalom.